15,000 years ago, deep in a cave in what's now France, someone painted this on the wall. This is an aurochs, a wild ox that stood 6 feet tall at the shoulder and could weigh over 3,000 pounds. That's heavier than most cars. They were powerful, dangerous, and completely untamable. But then, humans did something that changed the world forever. We turned these wild beasts into partners. And some of the breeds we created back then, they're still alive today, living, breathing links to ancient civilizations. In this video, I'm taking you on a journey through 8,000 years of history to meet the 10 oldest cattle breeds still walking the earth. Let's go! Around 10,000 years ago, in a region we now call the Fertile Crescent, basically modern-day Iraq and Iran, something revolutionary happened. Early humans had been hunting wild cattle for thousands of years. But someone had a wild idea. What if, instead of risking your life every time you needed meat or milk, you just kept some cattle nearby? It took generations, maybe even centuries of careful selection. They bred the calmest animals together, the ones with the best milk, the strongest for pulling plows. And slowly, wild aurochs began transforming into domesticated cattle. From that one region, cattle spread across the entire world: Africa, Europe, Asia. Each environment shaped them differently. Desert cattle became heat-resistant. Mountain cattle grew thick coats. Island cattle stayed small because there wasn't much food. Today, we have over 800 cattle breeds. And some of them are still ancient. They barely changed from the cattle that walked alongside pharaohs, gladiators, and Vikings. So how do we know which breeds are oldest? We know these using 3 ways. 1. Archaeologists dig up cattle bones at ancient sites and date them. 2. Geneticists analyze DNA to trace bloodlines back thousands of years. And 3. Historians study ancient art and writings that describe specific breeds. When all that evidence lines up, we can pinpoint when and where a breed originated. Here's what makes this list special. Every single one of these breeds is still alive. Not just in zoos or museums, actual working cattle, doing the same jobs their ancestors did millennia ago. Let's start our countdown at number 10 and work our way back through time to the oldest cattle breed on Earth. And trust me, when you see number 1, you'll understand why this breed has been shaping human civilization for 8,000 years. Number 10 takes us to a tiny island between England and France, where one of the world's most beloved cattle breeds has been living in isolation for over 500 years. Meet the Jersey. Picture this. It's the year 1500. Farmers on this rocky 9-mile-long island needed cattle that could thrive on limited pasture. They took local Norman cattle and bred them for one specific purpose: producing the richest milk possible on the least amount of food. Recognizing this genetic goldmine, the island government completely banned foreign cattle imports in 1789. Jerseys are small, standing just 4 feet tall with large, gentle eyes and fawn-colored coats. But their superpower is their milk. It packs 20% more calcium and 18% more protein than larger breeds, making it the ultimate base for premium butter and cheese. Ever had outrageously creamy, expensive ice cream? It was probably made with Jersey milk. By the 1800s, wealthy landowners worldwide wanted these hyper-efficient cattle. Today, they number over 10 million, making them a global dairy powerhouse. Not bad for an island smaller than Manhattan. Number 9 takes us to the wind-swept Highlands of Scotland, where an iconic breed has survived brutal winters for 900 years. Meet the Highland cattle. If cattle had a rock band, Highlands would be the lead guitarists. Around 800 AD, Viking settlers brought hardy northern cattle to Scotland, mixing them with local Celtic stock. The result? A breed perfectly adapted to freezing rain, howling winds, and terrible grazing. Their secret is a magnificent double coat, a coarse, waterproof outer layer, and a downy, insulating undercoat that allows them to survive -30 degrees Celsius without shelter. Add massive, 3-foot horns used to shovel through snow for grass, and short, powerful legs built for climbing. And you have Scotland's ultimate survivor. In the 1700s, Thousands of these cattle were driven hundreds of miles to market on foot, serving as Scotland's economic lifeline. Today, these shaggy survivors are raised worldwide, thriving everywhere from Canada to Australia. Number 8 brings us to Wales, a land of mountains, myths, and a cattle breed that's been here for 1,000 years, the Welsh Black. Bred during the medieval period for toughness above all else, these cattle were so highly prized they were officially listed as a form of currency in 12th century Welsh law books. Weighing up to 2,000 pounds of solid muscle, these pure black cattle are exceptional climbers, grazing on mountain slopes too steep for sheep. Their incredibly hard hooves navigate jagged, uneven ground without cracking. Starting in the 1400s, Welsh drovers would march thousands of these cattle over 200 miles through mountains and muddy roads to London. Only the toughest survived the weeks-long journey, making them famous in London markets as premium, flavorful beef. Today, top British chefs still specifically request Welsh Black, and they remain heavily prized for conservation grazing. Number 7 takes us to Tuscany, Italy, where the tallest cattle breed on Earth has towered over humans for 2,000 years. Meet the Chianina. Roman poet Virgil wrote about these massive white oxen, and archaeologists have found their bones dating back 2,200 years. They were ancient status symbols, used in sacred ceremonies and serving as the ultimate living tractors. Standing a staggering 6 feet tall at the shoulder and weighing nearly 2 tons, about the size of a mid-sized car, these giants are docile but incredibly powerful. For centuries, they were the backbone of Italian agriculture, pulling carts along Roman roads and ploughing the fields that fed an empire. Because of their incredibly lean muscle mass, they were also historically prized for meat. In fact, authentic Florentine T-bone steaks traditionally come from Chianina cattle. Today, only about 50,000 purebreds remain, carefully protected as a towering heritage breed. Number 6 isn't just one breed, but a family of ancient cattle called the Podolian group, roaming Europe for over 3,000 years. During the Bronze Age, nomadic tribes migrating westward from the Ukrainian steppes brought their hardy, long-horned cattle with them. Over centuries, these cattle adapted across Europe into distinct regional breeds, like the Hungarian Grey and Italian Podolica. These animals are literal, living history. Ancient Greek coins feature cattle identical to modern Podolian breeds, sporting the exact same massive, U-shaped horns that span up to 4 feet across, wider than most doorways. Silver grey and remarkably resilient, Podolians thrive on poor forage, extreme Mediterranean heat, and brutal Eastern European winters. For thousands of years, they fueled economies and pulled carts through Italy's roughest terrains. Though largely endangered today, European conservationists are working relentlessly to preserve these genetic treasures and living links to the Bronze Age. We've just crossed the 3,000-year mark, so hold on tight, because the next 4 breeds are about to take us to Africa, where cattle weren't just ancient, they were legendary. Number 5 takes us to East Africa, home to a spectacular breed that survived for 4,000 years. Meet the Ankole-Watusi. And yes, those magnificent horns are real. Depicted in ancient Egyptian tombs and buried with pharaohs, these cattle migrated south with Bantu-speaking peoples, eventually becoming the cultural bedrock of the Great Lakes region. To kings in ancient Rwanda and Uganda, these animals weren't just livestock, they were wealth, power, and living treasures. Let's talk about those unbelievable horns. Spanning up to 8 feet from tip to tip and weighing 100 pounds each, they aren't just for show, they're a highly evolved cooling system. Blood circulates through a honeycomb of vessels inside the horn, cools in the African breeze, and lowers their core body temperature. Built for survival, they can endure brutal heat and months of drought. Today, while crossbreeding threatens native African herds, conservationists worldwide are protecting the pure Ankole-Watusi as an irreplaceable living heritage. We've just crossed the 4,000-year mark, but our final 4 breeds? We're talking 5, 6, even 8,000 years of continuous existence. These legends predate written language. They witnessed the birth of agriculture, And they're still here. Let's meet them. Number 4 brings us to one of Africa's harshest environments. Meet the Boran. For 5,000 years, they've thrived in southern Ethiopia and northern Kenya, an unforgiving landscape where temperatures top 100 degrees and rain vanishes for months. Most cattle would die in weeks. The Boran survive thanks to 200 generations of brilliant selective breeding by the pastoral Borana people. They engineered one of the toughest cattle breeds on Earth. That prominent shoulder hump? It's an emergency fat reserve for droughts. Their loose, folded skin drastically increases surface area to dissipate heat, while their short, smooth coats reflect the brutal sun. Built to walk 15 miles a day for water, they are masters of survival. Today, Boran genetics are a highly prized global commodity, exported worldwide to inject extreme heat tolerance into commercial herds on every continent. Number 3 takes us to the dense rainforests of West Africa. At 6,000 years old, the Ndama might not look massive or dramatic, but they possess a superpower that has scientists completely baffled. West Africa harbors a tiny killer, the tsetse fly. It carries a parasite that causes sleeping sickness. For most cattle, a single bite means severe anemia and certain death. But the Ndama are virtually immune. Over millennia in the tsetse-heavy highlands of Guinea, they evolved a unique genetic resistance. When bitten, their immune systems simply control the infection. They recover something no other breed can do. Today, scientists are racing to decode this genetic superpower. If we can isolate how the Ndama defeats this parasite, we could breed that resistance into other herds, unlocking millions of square miles of African land for sustainable farming and helping feed millions. Number 2 takes us to the brutal, volcanic mountains of central France. Meet the Salers, Europe's oldest cattle breed, virtually unchanged for 7,000 years. Born in the steep, rocky Massif Central, Salers cattle survived by being completely self-sufficient. Isolation was their salvation. Remote mountain living meant no outside breeds were ever brought in to mix the bloodlines. For centuries, French farmers relied on these muscular, mahogany-red cattle for absolutely everything, pulling heavy plows, providing meat, and producing rich milk for the famous Salers cheese, a recipe that has been protected for over 2,000 years. Armed with thick winter coats to survive blizzards, incredibly tough hooves for rocky climbs, and legendary maternal instincts, the Salers are perfectly adapted to mountain survival. Today, this 7,000-year-old unbroken genetic lineage is recognized as a heritage breed and carefully preserved worldwide. And now, the oldest cattle breed still alive today. Originating on the Indian subcontinent, they've been around for an astonishing 8,000 years. Meet the Brahman. Tracing their roots back to the dawn of the ancient Indus Valley civilization, these Zebu-type cattle are older than history itself. Carved into ancient seals and revered in humanity's oldest religious texts, they were sacred then, and they are sacred now. This profound spiritual protection in Hindu culture is exactly what preserved their ancient bloodlines for millennia. Biologically, Brahmins are an evolutionary masterpiece. Their massive hump stores emergency energy, while their loose skin and massive ears radiate heat, allowing them to easily shrug off tropical humidity that would instantly kill European breeds. In the late 1800s, these ancient Indian genetics were imported and standardized in America to create the modern Brahman. Today, a staggering 60% of the world's beef cattle carry Brahman blood. They are the ultimate genetic time capsule, 8,000 years of perfect, unbroken adaptation.